and welcome to the latest installment of My Dad Listens to This. I'm Juliet, the daughter.
And I'm Kevin, the dad.
And this week's episode was actually inspired by a Twitter post. There was a Twitter challenge that said, "What is your I'm 13 and nobody understands me and everybody sucks album?" And I said to Dad, "What album is that for you? Because I think that would make great content for the podcast." And he said, "Well, I don't really have that, but we could do the first record I ever bought with my own money when I was 13. And I said, "Okay, that works. Let's do it." So we'll be discussing Queen's A Night at the Opera. So, Dad, what do we need to know?
Well, we need to know when I was 13, I wasn't rebelling as I probably should have.
No, because you would have gotten in trouble too quickly.
This is true.
And too severely.
This is definitely true. Could not get away with anything.
Nope.
Anyway, so it all kind of worked out that, hey, I was 13 years old and I bought A Night at the Opera, so there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's 50 years ago, 1974, and Queen is having troubles.
Oh, no.
Boy, are they having troubles. Their third album, Sheer Heart Attack, finally got the band some mainstream success with the single Killer Queen. The song went to number 2 in the UK and number 12 on Billboard's Hot 100. The album also went to number 12 on Billboard's 200 Albums chart, but the band was actually broke.
Oh.
Due to a contract they signed with then-manager Norman Sheffield, who also owned Trident Studios at the time where the band was recording. The contract required Queen to make albums for a production company that would turn around and sell them to a record company. So basically, these guys were each getting paid £60 a week, which is like $76.37 in today's money.
Ugh.
So it's kind of like they were contract employees. Brian May was living in a bedsit or studio apartment. I had to look that up. Freddie's flat had dampness problems.
Oh, no. That sounds like code for mold.
Yeah, pretty much. But the cake taker was when Sheffield denied newly married John Deacon a cash advance of £4,000 so he could put down a deposit on a house.
Oh, man.
In December 74, the band hired lawyer Jim Beach to get him out of this contract. It took 9 months.
Oof.
But when the dust was settled, Queen was free. They got control of their back catalog, which was basically the first 3 albums, and they signed with EMI in the UK and Elektra in the US. But Trident had invested £200,000 in the band, so Queen had to pay half that to buy out their contract.
Oh.
And give Trident 1% royalties from their next 6 albums, which I think would have been A Night at the Opera, A Day at the Races, News of the World, Live Killers, Jazz, possibly Flash Gordon, maybe? And if they didn't count live albums like Live Killers, then it probably would have been The Game.
That's a hefty 1%.
That certainly is. Now they needed a manager, so Queen narrowed the choice down to 3. Pete Rudge, who couldn't be reached because he was on tour with the Rolling Stones. Next up was Led Zeppelin's manager, Peter Grant.
That would have been interesting.
And he really wanted Queen, but the band thought that Grant would prioritize Zepp over them.
Well, that's understandable.
Which was a good call on their part.
Yep.
Third was Elton John's manager at the time, John Reed. They went with him. His advice to the group?
What?
Go into the studio and make the best record you can. Wow.
Well, that's not terrible advice.
Yeah, but I think this also may be why in 1978 Jim Beach became Queen's manager, because, I could have come up with that and say, guys, you need to go in there and just make the best album you possibly can.
Whoa, why didn't I think of that before?
Yeah. Anyway, Roy Thomas Baker, who had produced the first 3 Queen albums, was on board for this one. It took 4 months and 7 studios to record the new album. It cost £40,000 to make. In today's pounds, that's £357,000, and in US dollars, that's $454,423.
Any sense?
Probably, but
Yeah.
I like those money converter websites.
They're fun, yeah.
Yes. The title A Night at the Opera came from the Marx Brothers movie of the same name, as the band watched it during recording sessions.
Oh, nice.
And eventually they became buddies with Groucho.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. How'd that happen?
He contacted them and gave it the old, hey, I really like the name of that album. And then, they named this next one A Day at the Races, which was another Marx Brothers movie. And then he invited them over. They hung out.
That's cool.
Yeah, so, there you go.
Nice.
In October 1975, Bohemian Rhapsody was the first single. However, Queen's management didn't want to release it. But you told us to make the best album ever.
Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah. Now, English DJ Kenny Everett came to the rescue. He played the song 14 times on his show within the space of 2 days, and listener demand went through the roof. It went #1 in the UK and stayed there for 9 weeks. Let's see. It went to, I believe it was #9 in the US.
Not bad.
Not bad at all. You're My Best Friend was the second single released in June of 1976. It hit #7 in the UK and #16 in the US. The band hit the road and toured the UK, US, Japan, and Australia in 1975/1976. Oh, and before they hit the road, they only had 3.5 days to rehearse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No pressure.
A Night at the Opera got better reviews in the UK than in the US, as with all their albums, until Freddie died and critics decided maybe we should reassess.
Oh, thanks. Where were you when he was alive?
And I remember that, and I was so PO'd because I thought, now you realize that these albums are good. And I gotta say, I respect the critics who stuck to their guns.
That's fair, yeah.
I didn't agree with their reviews, but they did not back down on their stance.
Yeah, it's like, well, sad that he's gone, but we still feel X, Y, and Z about his music.
Yep. So
yeah, they were trying to cash in on his death.
So nowadays, A Night at the Opera has made it onto lots of 100, 200, 500, and 1001 greatest albums ever lists and blah, blah, blah.
Can you blame
so
him,
on
though?
and so forth.
Yeah.
But like I said, at the time it was like a poop on your record. As for me, I heard Bohemian Rhapsody and You're My Best Friend on the radio and wound up buying a used copy of A Night at the Opera from some kid Uncle Joey knew when he went to St. Teresa's school.
Did you get the money from your paper route?
I think I probably did.
Yeah.
I got it for $5.
Oh, nice.
That was 1976, and like we said, I was 13. There was one skip on it at the very beginning of the first song, Death on Two Legs, and it took me a while to notice that.
Oh.
But it wasn't like, oh, I got ripped off here. It wasn't. But I tell you, when I got the album on CD, I was so used to hearing that skip.
Kind of jarred you when it was perfectly smooth?
Yes. Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute, where's the skip? I'm not hearing it anymore. Now, as for the CD copy that I have, it's the Mobile Fidelity Sound Labs Gold CD version, which came out in 1992. And I got it, I'm pretty sure, at Good Vibrations for $10 or $15, I think.
Where was Good Vibrations?
They were in Seekonk in the Target Plaza.
Oh,
I think they're the Payless shoe store for now.
Oh, okay. I didn't even think Payless was still around.
I think they still might be. Anyway, yeah, for some reason they sold their gold CDs really cheap, so I picked up quite a few. The sound is great, and Mobile Fidelity Sound Labs donated proceeds to the Mercury Phoenix Trust in London to find a cure for AIDS. Now, as for the songs themselves, there's a great DVD that I watched called Queen, The Making of a Night at the Opera, Classic Albums. And it goes into a lot of technical stuff as to how each song was created in the studio. And if you're into that sort of thing, it's just fascinating.
I would probably recommend watching that over the Bohemian Rhapsody movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
If anyone's interested, if you have seen the Bohemian Rhapsody biopic, there's History Buffs on YouTube, which is an animated series that reviews the historical accuracy of biopics and historical films.
And it is wildly inaccurate.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
It is so wildly inaccurate. I think that his Bohemian Rhapsody series was 2 to 3 videos, each of them 30 minutes long. That's how much they screwed up. Yeah, don't believe the rumor that they were always bickering, constantly hated each other. They really got along, but I guess for drama or whatever, Peter Morgan was like, nah, we're gonna have them fight all the time and make Freddie to be a total asshole diva.
Yeah, because I'm watching this and, they're getting upset that he made a solo album.
They were really happy. They were like, all right, go Freddie, woohoo!
Because the other guys were doing their stuff. Roger, Brian, but not John. Yeah, they were all fine with it.
They were like, oh, good for you. You did a thing and you made some money. That's nice.
Yeah, they pretty much got along very well.
Yeah. Which, anyway, moving on. Let's get to the real album.
But we will get to a little tension as we go along.
Oh, okay.
Just a little. Not
But,
a lot.
yeah. Nothing to end the band over.
No.
All right. First track, Death on Two Legs. That opening piano was soft. And I'd love to hear who Freddie's classical pianist influences were because it sounds like Beethoven. Then we have the whining guitar and the electronic noises that sound like an alien horror movie with an unsettling vocoded scream. As an opening track, this gets your attention with the strangeness of the sound that somehow leaves you with the feeling of, I've heard this before. And then Freddie opens his mouth and the show has started. It's not even over as I'm typing this sentence and the song is, I Gotta Curse, so fucking good. I hadn't listened to Queen in a while, and I'm so glad we started off early in our season with going back to Queen. Freddie is dealing with a bully and his cronies. This bully has taken everything he owns, and Freddie is pissed, saying, go ahead, take it all, I don't care, you've taken everything from me already. This bully is Death on Two Legs. Now, when Freddie said suck my blood, I thought this was going to be a vampire song, which would have been fascinating given the vampire queer allegories that proliferate the vampire genre. Oh, and while we're on this, I'm going to make my stance on this known. Freddie Mercury was bisexual, and I do not condone bi erasure with anyone, especially him. Now that that's out of the way, this song is a fucking great performance, and I'm swearing because that's the only adjective I can use to describe it. And it's also interesting because Freddie says kiss my ass in this song, and I don't think I've ever heard Queen swear before, or at least I don't remember them swearing when I was a kid. But a perfect opening, and the transition from the opening track to the second track is seamless and jarring and wonderful to the point where you kind of can't listen to the songs out of context. I mean, you could, but if you listen to the album all in one go, it makes it that much better.
Yeah, they got potty-mouthed on a few songs scattered over some albums. Didn't happen a lot. So Freddie wrote this about the band's first manager, Norman Sheffield.
Beautiful.
He never comes out and mentions him specifically, but Norm heard the playback, put 2 and 2 together, and came up with 4.
So this is basically their sex society?
I guess. But in this case, unlike the Maharishi, Norm sued the band for defamation, and they reached an out-of-court settlement, thereby confirming his connection to the song. Norm would later go on to write his autobiography, 2013's. Wait for it. What do you think he called his autobiography?
Death on Two Legs?
Nope. Life on Two Legs.
Oh, brother.
The other band members thought the lyrics were pretty harsh, but the thing was, Freddie wrote them. He should be able to perform them.
Yeah.
That was the band consensus. Whatever you wrote, whatever you wanted to do, that's what you did.
Unless you didn't want to sing, which was Deacon a lot of the time, and you could hand it off to whoever you wanted to sing the song.
Well, we're going to find out. That happens quite a bit on this album.
Oh, yeah.
And the man did not hold back. First line, you suck my blood like a leech. Silliest line for me has always been, was the fin on the back part of the deal? Shark. Like, no, we know we kind of have an idea that's a shark, but just adding that word shark to the line just ups the silliness just a little more. And as if Freddie was afraid we weren't going to be able to figure out. But anyway, subtlety was never one of Queen's strengths.
But that's fine.
That's not a problem.
Nope.
Wikipedia says the song is in B minor, which makes sense because it reminds me of that Far Side cartoon when a bad guy walks into the saloon.
Bad guy coming in, minor chord.
Yep. Bad guy, minor key. Freddie played the guitar parts on the piano to show Brian what Freddie wanted.
Oh, cool.
And even with all those noises at the beginning, as they always proudly said, until the game, no synthesizers were used on the album.
Oh, that's interesting.
This is quite... Oh, we're going to get into some of the noises later. Yeah, it is quite the album opener.
Yes. Next track, Lazing on a Sunday Afternoon. I can't read that title without thinking of the Kinks for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
They're definitely taking the piss out of the British upper class. Freddie must have relished this especially considering people threw slurs at him thinking he was Pakistani when he's actually from Zanzibar. Racist and ignorant, what a coincidence. So we are following this posh British gentleman in a week in the life. Monday he goes to work, starts out normal. Tuesday he goes off to honeymoon, probably a reference to sex or dating. Wednesday evening he goes bicycling, good exercise. Thursday he waltzes off to the zoo, which sounds fun. Friday he goes painting at the Louvre, must get kicked out. And Saturday night he's bound to be proposing. probably dating again. Which honestly doesn't sound like a bad life, but if that's his routine every week, maybe throw in some variety. And the harmonies on the word Louvre are delicious on the ears. Now here's my statement I'm gonna make. Freddie Mercury would have played a great Mad Hatter in a Batman adaptation.
I could see that.
Or the Mad Hatter in any Alice in Wonderland adaptation. He would have had a ball and I would have loved to see it.
This is definitely a 180 from Death on Two Legs.
You bet.
I thought he was kind of like the bon vivant, the man about town, and he's just telling us what he does each day of the week. And the thing that surprised me is he actually works on Mondays.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, he must work very hard to get paid a lot of money because the rest of the week he's just having a ball.
Or it's a setup where he's already rich and he doesn't really need a job because he's got the money, but he wants to do something. So he finds a scenario where he only has to work 1 day a week. Or maybe it's a case where he's a rich CEO and he technically only has to come to the office 1 day a week and everybody else does the work for him.
They're just showing up, keeping an eye on the peons. You know,
Yep.
I'll see you later. I'm off to honeymoon.
Yep.
Or maybe it's the zoo. Or,
Bicycling.
yep. And
That's later.
I like that they throw in the little bicycle bell there.
Yeah.
He does everything except for Sundays because, you know, the man needs a day off from quite the week that he's had.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all over in about a minute and a half, if even.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Freddie sounds like he's singing through a megaphone.
Yeah, he does.
That sort of thing being popular in the 1920s. But per Wikipedia, I quote, the lead vocal was sung in the studio and reproduced through headphones in a tin bucket elsewhere in the studio.
That's impressive.
A microphone picked up the sound from the bucket, which gives it a hollow megaphone sound. And it's delightfully silly stuff, but I think we kind of needed it after the opener.
Yeah. Next track, I'm in love with my car.
Speaking of silly stuff.
Ah, yes, the song that Peter Morgan set up in the film Bohemian Rhapsody to be bad compared with the genius that is the title of the film. Something that was dumb that the music executives could understand because it didn't require thinking or imagination. They set it up as the epitome of rock and roll don't come from your brain, it comes from your crotch. But is that it? Let's find out. And here's the thing, this song does rock. It explains the thrill Roger gets from revving it up and going on a drive, which there's nothing wrong with that. And the guitar is great. Roger has amazing rocky vocals, one of rock's most underrated singers, fight me, and the studio is used really well with the car sound effects, some of which sound like they're coming from people. But here's the thing. There was this show on TLC called My Strange Addiction, and there was one guy who was literally in love with his car and would get intimate with it. I'll leave that part to your imagination. So I can't listen to this song because all I think of are those clips and I get Nam flashbacks. It's not Roger's fault. One guy making out with his steering wheel had to go ruin it for everybody.
Yay.
Yeah, that's why I can't look at this song in the same way. I just feel too gross.
Okay.
Yep.
So, like you said, Roger wrote it and he sang it. And when Brian heard the demo, his first thought was, Roger can't be serious. But Roger was inspired by one of their roadies, Jonathan Harris, who had a Triumph TR4 car that was the love of his life. And I found that on the web, and I thought I could definitely see why he'd be into that car. Oh, it just looks great. Anyway, and on the lyric sheet it reads, dedicated to Jonathan Harris, boy racer to the end. And the thing is, cars and rock and roll have been tight since the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Go all the way back to Maybelline with Chuck Berry and maybe even earlier. And Roger's got a feel for his automobile. That, my friends, is poetry. Best lines, told my girl I had to forget her, rather buy me a new carburetor. And the thing is, this reminded me of the Go-Go song Skid Marks on My Heart, because you get it from the girl's point of view, where she's singing about, you say get a mechanic, I say get a shrink. I need promises, you need Motor Trend.
That would be an interesting mix CD where side 1 is I'm in love with my car and side 2 is Skid Marks on My Heart.
Yep. This song rocks hard. And the revving sounds at the end came courtesy of Roger's Alfa Romeo. And then, Troublish.
Okay.
Roger loved this song so much that he either begged Freddie to make it the B-side to Bohemian Rhapsody, or he locked himself in the closet and wouldn't come out until a band agreed to make it the B-side.
You pick whichever one you want to believe to be true.
Yeah. So they said, fine. Now the trouble came when Roger earned an equal amount of publishing royalties that Freddie did for the A-side Bohemian Rhapsody.
Uh-huh.
And the band wasn't too happy about that. Could have been jealousy maybe, but I think the thing is, whatever the B-side was, someone was going to get paid. I mean, you know, you can't leave the B-side blank. And maybe Roger knew that Bohemian was going to be huge.
So he did his money.
Right, even though no one really knew. And the other thing is, it's like, you know, John wrote one song, You're My Best Friend, which actually became a single.
Yeah.
Freddie and Brian wrote the rest, and Roger just wrote the one song. But the thing is, it's like, you know, if Brian had made the B-side, would Freddie still have been as jealous or what?
Oh, that's a good point.
But,
Well, that all blew over, though, right?
apparently it did. I mean, I didn't know it was a thing. And the thing is, yeah, Roger made serious bank.
Yeah, so
But,
good for him.
You know, it was a crapshoot. It could have been a really big hit.
Or a stinkeroo, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Next track, You're My Best Friend.
No, I'm your dad.
Yeah, I know. As you would say, though, the silent one strikes again. I think what makes this song endure is because of how it could apply to any relationship. Could be platonic friends, like the title. Could be romantic. Family members. Heck, people sing this to their pet. It's full of joy and sincerity without being saccharine. It's true and fun. And Freddie's singing is straightforward. Every time he options up is from joy. And what I will say is I thought Freddie was always singing, You're Making Me Live, and not You Make Me Live.
You making me live.
Yeah, hey, Bruno. But reading it, I realized he was bouncing onto the words, so now I know.
Yeah.
A sweet classic that makes you feel good.
Yep, this was written by John Deacon, sung by Freddie, because John was never going to sing his stuff.
That's fine. He doesn't have to if he doesn't want to.
No, that was the thing with the band. Even though they always encouraged him, you should sing your stuff.
You want to sing? No. You sure? No. Okay.
Okay, who do you want to sing?
Freddie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe he realized, you know, you got someone like Freddie in the band. Do any of us really need to sing?
Do any of us need to open our mouth?
Yeah. This was John's second song that he wrote solo. Mm-hmm. The first was a song called Misfire on Sheer Heart Attack. Also on Sheer Heart Attack, there was one song, Stone Cold Crazy, which all four members of the band got credit for writing. So,
cool.
John wrote this for his wife, Veronica, and they're still married almost 50 years and 6 kids later.
Good for them.
It was released as a single and went to number 16 on Billboard's Hot 100. Now, John, not Freddie, plays the electric piano, as that's what John originally wrote the song on, while learning how to play the piano.
Oh, that's cool.
And John liked that sound. Freddie did not. Freddie hated the electric piano. His attitude was, why play one of those when you've got a grand piano? So John played it, and Freddie said he could understand why John wanted that sound, but it was just, he just refused to play electric piano.
Well, Freddie, it's not your song. That's why Deacon's playing the electric piano.
And, you know, You're My Best Friend, if you listen closely, it swings. Mm-hmm. It actually does.
Because we used to dance to this song when I did the ballroom club at Rick, because the rhythm of swing is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, rock step, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, rock step, and you can hear that with You're My Best Friend.
And that electric piano kind of gives it like a bubblegum feel.
But a nice bubblegum feel.
Oh yeah. No, I'm not complaining at all. I like bubblegum, you know, sugar and all that. And the thing is, there's nothing over the top about this song at all. It's just a straight ahead pop song.
Yep. Next track, 39.
40.
41.
42.
43.
44.
45.
46.
47.
This could be the rest of the podcast.
Yeah, it could. Okay.
Back to
39.
Yes.
This feels very English in the sense of an English working class folk song, or a song you could hear the sailors singing almost like a shanty.
Exactly. That's what Brian was going for.
Yep. But this time he tells the tale of English astronauts who are away for a year and come back home. But also considering World War II lasted from 1938 to 1945, if you didn't know the context, you could look at this song as English sailors enlisting and joining the fight against Germany. And because it's a simple song with a simple story, it doesn't need much other than an acoustic guitar and some singers, with Roger foreshadowing how high his falsetto will go a few tracks later. I like this song. Brian is singing honestly as a storyteller, and I appreciated it.
Yep. So a group called the Volunteers sails out into the blue for a year. When they get back, even though a year has passed for them, a great many years have passed at home.
Oh, like Rip Van Winkle.
Maybe 100 years. Apparently, one of the kids in the song is fully grown. His wife is dead, and I'm assuming that due to the line, "Your mother's eyes from your eyes cry to me."
Oh,
and
yeah.
then the kicker at the end, "For my life still ahead, pity me." Not exactly Rip Van Winkle shenanigans.
No.
But like, hey, beer for everyone. One thing Brian doesn't make exactly clear is the type of ship. And like you said, could be a spaceship sailing into the blue sky.
Google said it was, so.
Hence the time distortion.
Yeah.
Google, what do they know? Everything. Brian made a joke to John about playing a double or upright bass on 39. And John, being John, showed up in the studio a few days later with an upright bass, and he had learned how to play it.
Don't screw around with the silent one.
No, you don't. You just don't. He is their secret weapon.
And Brian was like, "Oh, wow, I was only kidding, but okay."
And that's when John hit him with the upright bass.
Yeah.
Roger's falsetto during the vocal break is ridiculously high, and it's very impressive. And he's going to get even higher in a few songs.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Next track, Sweet Lady. The title makes me think of George Harrison's My Dark Sweet Lady, which he wrote for Olivia. It's beautiful if you haven't listened to it. Another song where Freddie is dealing with someone treating him like garbage, only in this case it's a woman. He's treated like a dog, torn up inside, and she calls him sweet like he's some kind of cheese. I feel like we don't need this track because we already got the same story with the kick-ass opening track of Death on Two Legs. They should have kept the title track and cut this one from the album because it feels redundant. Although that instrumental towards the end while Freddie does a preacher impression's pretty cool.
Brian wrote this, but I think he knew he'd never be able to pull it off vocally. Enter Freddie. Freddie sings how she treats him like a dog, but she comes back with how she feels she's just made a fool to make him a home. But Freddie insists that they just believe and they've got everything they need. Maybe not. Yeah, it's pretty much a straight-ahead rocker. I've never had a problem with the song at all. The line that always got me, though, was, "You call me sweet like I'm some kind of cheese." Sweet cheese? Enter
Dale.
the interwebs. And I had to find out, is there such a thing? Yes, there is such a thing called dessert cheese.
There's also chocolate cheese. Jess and Andrew tried it on the podcast. Apparently it just tastes like fudge.
Examples of sweet cheese are, yes, goat cheese, aged Gouda, blue, Fontina, Havarti, mascarpone, Emmentaler, pecorino, ricotta, and brie. Not being a cheese fan, I will pass, though. I do use ricotta to make ricotta cookies.
Yes, you do.
And for lasagna, that one-pot lasagna.
Oh, that's so good.
It is.
Next track, Seaside Rendezvous. People saying they're going to the seaside sounds very English to me, especially when they say they're going away on holiday. Reminds me of when I posted on Twitter, we need to bring back the concept of going away to the seaside for one's health. Like, I got a cold. I gotta go to the seaside for a while, BRB. Like, you know how they would say that in all those old English books? She's been sent to the seaside for her health. We need to bring that back.
Preferably during the summer, not the winter,
Yes.
especially around here.
Yep. Musically, this song is very English music hall with the honky-tonk piano and the trumpet sounds. They sound like someone imitating a trumpet through a filter in a fun way. Freddie's campy singing adds to the vibe perfectly, and I realized what this reminded me of. Jeeves and Wooster. If you played this song on the soundtrack to the TV series, it wouldn't sound out of place musically. Freddie is playing a bit of a dandy who's in love and wants to have flirty fun, maybe a little more, with the object of his affection. And as they walk along the seaside, he teases them. It's cute fun when he says, "Give us a kiss," which again, very English. I want to give him a peck on the cheek for being so gosh darn lovable and cute. A fun musical romp.
Yep, so the bon vivant from Lazing on the Sunday Afternoon has returned.
And he's going to the seaside.
Yep, this time he's working the seaside, tap dancing, and romancing. More silliness, but you have to admire Queen's nerve. They kind of knew it was campy, but they didn't care. Roger is credited with vocal orchestration of brass. Freddie's credit is vocal orchestration of woodwind. So, yeah, they're just using their voices and nothing else
That's
to
what
sound
I
like
thought.
clarinet, trumpet, and kazoo. And as for the tap dancing, that's Roger and Freddie with thimbles on their fingers tapping on a desk.
Oh, nice, like Foley sound. That's cool.
Yep. At one point, Freddie asks the girl to be his Clementine, which you might want to rethink that because the first thing I thought of was that song, "Oh My Darling Clementine," where she died by drowning.
That's not good.
Under strange circumstances, she hurt her foot and then she fell in the water and then she was dead.
Sounds like a story to me.
And then the guy who loved her, he couldn't swim. So he doesn't jump in because he's going to drown. And all he could do was watch. There she goes.
Blub, blub, blub.
Yikes. And all the other thing I could think of, and I might be dating myself here, Huckleberry Hound.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my darling.
Yep.
Yeah. Next track, Prophet Song. I have another bone to pick with Peter Morgan for writing Bohemian Rhapsody, because people in the movie were freaking out because Bohemian was 6 minutes long. It's actually 5 minutes and 54 seconds. 55, sorry. But this song is the longest on the album at 8 minutes and 20 seconds. This prophet song is not a joyful one. It's a harbinger of death. The earth will shake and break in two, and everyone is going to die and go to hell. So they tell the children to flee for their lives. Freddie's voice is dark and powerful, and he harmonizes with himself beautifully. Then we get a moment where it's just Freddie singing in harmony by himself a cappella, as if to musicalize how the world ended and the survivors are trying to find each other. Love is the answer and the only way to solve it, so they bind together. This song shows that Freddie is a genius. It drags in the middle a bit as he starts to go on with his voice, but then the instruments kick back in and we go back to rock music. And then there's a gust of wind and the instruments give one last lick of the keys and pluck of the strings, signifying nothing. It's as if this song is Bohemian Rhapsody's sibling. It's very interesting to think about how the two songs are similar, and yet I'd never been as aware of this one or tuned into it when it was playing in your car in passing. Don't know if I'll download it, though. I'm still debating that one.
Well, the sound at the beginning and the end with the wind, Brian did that on purpose. I guess it was to bookend the song. But yeah, this song clocks in at 8:20, making it Queen's longest song with vocals. They had a hidden instrumental track on the album Made in Heaven that was 22 minutes and 32 seconds. That's quite the hidden track. I've never heard it yet. Anyway, Brian wrote this after he had a dream about a flood of apparently biblical proportions. He also managed to work in his fears about how humanity is screwed. And it definitely has an Old Testament feel to it with prophets, madmen, even the 2x2 lineup. But this time around, it's a human zoo running to try to get out of the rain. Brian said it took him days to put this all together, painstakingly. He had Freddie sing a vocal canon, C-A-N-O-N, think row, row, row your boat, that starts at the 3:24 mark and goes on for about 2 minutes or so, followed by Brian guitar soloing around 6:47. Then Freddie comes back, and the song sort of ends around the 7:20 mark. Then it's all instrumental until 8:20, when a piano comes in to start Love of My Life. Pretty epic song. Never really had a problem with it. Never skipped over it.
Next track, Love of My Life. I'm going to make a statement. The studio version is not the best version of this song. The best way to hear it is the live performances where Freddie sings it along with the crowd. And if you want a performance that'll make tears shoot out of your eyes, watch the one Queen did in Japan where they used a video recording of Freddie and the audience was just bawling their eyes out.
But still singing.
Yes. I think the reason the versions with the live crowds always works is because not only does it show the power of their music, but because everyone can relate to this, I love you, please come back to me. And it's powerful to feel those emotions emulating from a giant group of people. So go listen to the live recordings instead, not the studio. Plus, the live key is better. The studio key is just for Freddie's voice, but the live key is for everyone.
Interesting. I did not pick up on that.
Yeah.
To me, this has always been like one of the saddest songs ever.
But it's a good sad.
Yeah, Freddie's had his heart broken and he's begging, don't leave him, don't desert him, bring that love back because you don't know what it means to him.
Bring it back, bring it back.
You just don't know. You don't know what it's like.
You don't know jack shit.
Now, Brian plays the harp on this one.
Ooh, that's what it was.
And the way that it worked was he had to paste together multiple takes of single chords that he played on it.
Because you can't play it all in one go.
Right.
Gotcha.
But it does sound seamless. During 1977's News of the World tour, audiences in South America would sing the song to the band. They were the ones who started it. So Freddie stopped singing it, and he would just conduct the audience. Brian said the audiences sang with such passion it brought tears to his eyes.
Yeah, I think it made everyone on stage cry.
And apparently this became a tradition everywhere, including the 1986 Wembley concert and that video that you sent me. And as soon as you sent it, I knew that Adam, what's-his-face, wasn't going to be singing on it.
Nope.
It was going to be audience-driven.
Because even he knows, nope, I can't do it. Not my place.
You don't mess with it, yeah.
Nope. Yeah, that made me cry when like all the Japanese fans just saw Freddie and just started crying instantly.
Mm-hmm.
And one side note that I kind of want to go off on a little tangent here. I love how Brian, he looks like he has Isaac Newton's hair because he's Dr. Brian May. And he's got the hair of like an old-time scientist and like also like an old classical music composer.
And like Sir Isaac Newton, he is Sir Brian May.
Exactly.
And then he got some other honor after that, which I can't remember.
He got his PhD finally, like he went back to school.
Oh yeah, but no, this happened like maybe about a year or two ago. He got something from
Oh, was this for his photography?
maybe it was this year. I think he got it from Charles. It was in 2023, whenever Charles became king. He got something from him, some other sort of like British Empire
Well, that's
honor.
nice.
He wasn't made Lord May. He's still Sir Brian.
Yeah. But what I will say, just on that tangent really quickly, I love how we still have musicians who have the old-time hair of classical composers. You got Brian and you got Weird Al. It just makes me happy.
That's true. He definitely has the Bach Isaac Newton thing going on there.
Exactly. Next track, Good Company. Brian's dandy impression isn't as good as Freddie's, but he brings his own spin to it.
Well, I think he was going for more of like Dixieland jazz.
Or English Grandpa.
Okay.
The song is written as if it's a fable. Guy has a good group of friends, and he marries his sweetheart, but as he becomes more and more immersed in work, his friends and wife disappear. Now he's old and ruminating on the advice he got from his father. Take care of those you own and keep good company. I wonder how often that happens when people retire and realize they can't enjoy their retirement because they didn't take time to nurture their most important relationships while they were working. So there's no one for you to go to. A lesson told with a pleasing musical sound, since Brian sounds great singing this by himself in harmony. Liked it a lot better towards the end. Did you want to make a comment as a retiree dad about what I just said?
I'm loving retirement.
Oh, I know, but you took time to cultivate your relationships while you were still working. That way when you retired, it wasn't like everybody had up and left.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the start of the song, it seems like Brian's dad gives him the life advice about take care of those you call your own and keep good company. And then we follow Brian as he grows up, playing all day with Sally J, who he eventually married. And life goes on, and he's got the work thing, and then friends are just falling by the wayside until it's just him and Sally left. But they're doing all right until he tells us that he hardly noticed Sally as they parted company, which either they divorced or she died, because like after he says that line about I hardly noticed Sally as we parted company, then you get that effect, and I thought, oh, was that her going to heaven
With the harp, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be either one, but I like your theory a lot better. And now he's the old man, and what do us old people do? We pass on advice to young people that we know they're just not going to follow. And how about all those horns Brian's playing?
You played those horns?
Guess what?
What?
They're all guitars.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep, that Classics album DVD that I mentioned earlier, they go into like all this technical detail about how it was done. And Brian even shows us how it was done. And Brian said it took a long, really long time to put it all together. I mean, that's one thing about Brian. It seems like he always challenged himself in the studio. And it was like, okay, I got this impossible thing, but I'm going to make it possible. And that's why he has that degree in astrophysics.
That's Dr. Brian May to you, pal.
Sir Dr. Brian or Dr. Sir Brian? Sir Dr. Brian?
Sir Dr. Brian.
Can't go wrong either way.
Yeah. Next track, Bohemian Rhapsody. I actually went back to watch the music video for this since I hadn't seen it in a long time. And while the outfits are very 70s, along with the hair, the sets, and makeup, the cinematography is really good.
I mean, you can't beat that diamond shape of the four of them.
Nope, especially when they get to the I See a Little Silhouette of a Man. Now, here's the thing. I don't know how to review this song because everyone in our culture knows it and has been immersed in it for years. Every time this song was played by a DJ, we'd all get up and dance to it. So how do you review? Well, we'd get up and dance to it and sing along to it, but we'd start dancing when they got to the
So you'd have to wait about 4 minutes before you got up and...
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, because I thought it was like, you're doing some sort of slow dance during the first part, and then you kind of like sit down during the opera part, and then you get up and you like, bang the heads that will not bang, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So how do you review a song where you have a years-long bias in its favor? Well,
You just review it anyway.
I'll just go over what I noticed when I had to cover it for the podcast. The main story of the song is a man who's just killed someone and his time is up and he has to face punishment. But I guess when I first heard this song, I saw it as a series of vignettes, although you could argue that there's a connection where the murderer isn't going to take this lying down, and once the dust settles, he's back to a general state of apathy.
I think the murderee will take it lying down, though.
Oh, yeah. I think what was also great about watching the music video is that while it's Freddie's song, you can hear how in sync the band is and see their dynamic, that they're all going to work together to make sure each other's songs sounded the best they could. Then you get to Roger Taylor, who has a smirk on his face as he hits the high note. Yeah, you thought that was Freddie. It's actually me. Now, is this my favorite Queen song? Nope. That would be Don't Stop Me Now. But I think what makes Bohemian really live on is how universally loved and appreciated it is. I mean, I went on YouTube. The song is over 40 years, is 50 years old, or over 40 years old. Is it 50 years old this year?
Be 50 years old in 2025.
Okay, so 49 years old. And there are still comments on the YouTube video from 2 days ago. So if you want a song that's the epitome of Queen's legacy, I think this is it. Freddie writes a song where no one quite knows what it means, but his friends help him make something great and everyone loves it. As for covers and different interpretations, the most charming and fun is the Muppets cover, with Beaker singing as Roger Taylor, the opening being Gonzo and Chickens in silhouette, and Animals screaming Mama over and over. And for something a bit more bizarre but creative, there's Literal Bohemian Rhapsody, which is a short film that uses the lyrics of the song, which has moments of comedy but is heightened drama similar to Shakespeare. Oh, and if you want proof this is a good song by itself, Google the guy singing 42 renditions of this song, because it shows that no matter who performs it, the sound is good. No matter who performs it, for the most part.
And this is why everyone bought the album.
Yep.
Freddie had been carrying around the idea for the song in his head since the 60s. He had 3 songs that he wanted to combine as one. It was originally going to be called Mongolian Rhapsody, until Freddie, I guess, thought better of it.
Because he's not Mongolian.
He called it his mock opera, but it could also be considered a suite of songs, because you have that intro, then the piano ballad part, then the opera, then the hard rock section, and then that coda that kind of brings it back to the ballad part. But what's it all mean?
What's it all about, Alfie?
Freddie said it was about relationships and left it at that. Now, the rest of the band was and still is very protective of whatever secrets the song has.
Okay, well, I want to
So
ask...
I guess Freddie told them, okay, this is what it's really about, but none of them have ever spilled the beans or the tea or whatever it is you kids spill these days.
It's still tea.
But there are a lot of theories that still abound. There was one which I never thought of until I read it, that it could be a musical version of Albert Camus' The Stranger.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which I've read that book a number of times, and I thought, that makes a lot of sense.
Oh, yeah.
It could also be about Freddie coming out or wanting to come out, because things were different back in 1975.
That also explains his reference to Bismillah, which I think is a reference to, is it Zoroastrianism?
Bismillah means in the name of God.
Yeah, and that's a reference to him growing up in Zanzibar.
And still others think it's just all random, that it's just words that were written to fit the music and that's it. Which I kind of don't know. If Freddie was carrying it in his head all that time, I'm sure he had some ideas about it. And again, for all the technical stuff, watch the Classic Albums DVD. And as mentioned before, Kenny Everett played the song 14 times in 2 days on his show. Now, the thing was, fans attempted to buy the single, only to be told that there wasn't one yet. Now, in the United States, Paul Drew, who ran RKO General Stations, heard the track whilst in London and managed to get a copy of it on tape to play in the United States, forcing Elektra Records' hand to come out with it as a single. And as I said before, it went to #1 in the UK, #9 in the US. And when it appeared in the Wayne's World movie in 1992, it was re-released and it went all the way to #2. And apparently Mike Myers was horrified at the video that the record company had put out showing like, interspersing clips of Wayne's World with Queen.
Mm-hmm.
And he was so mortified that he got in contact with Brian May saying, I'm so sorry
Oh.
about this. I did not think this was happening. And Brian's like, hey, we think this is great.
Oh, cool. Okay.
We really appreciate it.
Uh-huh.
Now it's considered the greatest song ever in the history of songs ever,
Mm-hmm.
or something like that.
One of the greatest.
Yeah, since the dawn of time, or the dawn of man, or whatever,
Or the Dawn of Freddy.
or the dawn of the dinosaurs. Who knows? It makes a lot of best of lists, no matter what. It could be like greatest rap songs of all time, and it'll be on there somehow. It was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 2004, and it is also the most streamed song from the 20th century.
Yep. Over a billion streams.
Over a billion served at McDonald's. I mean YouTube. And in 2022, the Library of Congress picked it for preservation in the National Recording Registry. So when the world ends, it'll be Keith Richards, the Cockroaches, Twinkies,
Cool Whip,
and Bohemian Rhapsody. And as a 13-year-old, I swear, I remember reading an article in the Evening Bulletin, which was the Providence Journal's afternoon paper. Yes, the newspaper came out twice a day back then.
Wow, how times have changed.
I know. So thankfully, I was on, well, I don't know if it was thankfully, but I did the afternoon paper route. Someone else did the morning route. Except on Saturdays, I had to do the Saturday morning route for some reason. Didn't have to do the Sunday, though. That was someone else. Anyway, I swear I remember reading an article in the Evening Bulletin about a local murder
Oh.
that had eerily reflected the lyrics of Bohemian Rhapsody. I remember reading the article, and then they printed some of the lyrics, and I was like, oh my God, this happened here?
Like Charles Manson in the White Album.
I guess. But the thing is, I have never been able to find this article online. I did a deep search, and nothing has ever come up. But I swear I remember reading it right before I had to deliver the papers. I guess that was a perk. Yeah, I'm using the quote thing as like, hey, I got the newspaper before everyone else. What's Charlie Brown up to? Oh my God. And then I just remember that was on the front page of the paper. So this is back in 1976. So either I just have like quite the imagination, or I just cannot find this, which I really wish I could be able to find it. Anyone out there who's from Rhode Island?
And if you know what Dad's talking about.
Yeah, and if you don't, then maybe it's time for you to put me in the home, but not the one that was on 60 Minutes.
You'll be good. Also, what did you think of the versions of Bohemian that I sent you? The Muppets?
Well, I've seen the Muppets one, which is always great. And then the 42 versions one, that was really impressive, especially that guy digging deep into like Chuck Berry and Sam Cooke. And it was like he always picked the right line. So God knows how long that must have taken him to put together, but that was just unbelievably impressive. And then the literal version, that was like one of the best movies I've seen in a long time.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I thought, wow, this is better than a lot of the crap that's out in the theaters.
The one part that made me break a little bit was when the mom was sobbing and they had to incorporate the ooh somehow.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Yeah.
That was perfect.
Some people said that part kind of sucked them out of the moment a little bit, but other than that, they enjoyed it.
Yep.
Okay, final track, God Save the Queen. Ah, yes, the song we plagiarized from My Country 'Tis of Thee.
We plagiarized a lot.
Yeah.
Star Spangled Banner, anyone?
For a cover, it's pretty respectful, with Roger giving the drums a militaristic drum roll and providing the fanfare. Just with the rock instruments they have, they make it sound like an orchestral arrangement. It's patriotic, but I'm of the opinion that Bohemian would have been the better note to end on with that final gong. Because that would have been a cool note, just leave you hanging with the emotions you're feeling from Bohemian, and the album's over, and you got to sit with it for a while.
Well, I don't know. I thought it was a great way to end the album. And we'll get into that in a minute. Yes, God Save the Queen, or as we have to call it nowadays, God Save the King. And that's probably going to happen for
a while.
A few.
Yeah.
Chuck, Bill,
George,
and then Ringo. King Ringo.
King Ringo.
King Ring.
King Ring. That actually
So is that
works.
how it goes? It's like William gets it, and then one of his kids gets it.
His oldest kid.
That's why they always have to crank out kids.
Yeah, in case one of them goes, they gotta have yeah. Well, that's why Prince Harry named his memoir Spare. You have the heir, then you have the spare, in case the heir goes.
And then the third one must be nowhere. So let me ask you something.
Yeah.
So if if Charles and Diana had a girl first and then Harry, would the girl get it next, or would it just go to Harry?
I think the girl might have gotten it because I think they've changed the rules of succession, but I don't know exactly what the rules of succession are, so you would have to Google that. I'm leaning towards yes because,
Oldest one first.
Oldest one first, but also when Elizabeth was crowned queen, I mean, she was the eldest, but also she was a girl, and it wasn't like they were waiting for her father to, suddenly crank out a boy and be like, okay, now we got the next in line.
Okay, so it's not based on, you're a guy, so...
I don't think so anymore, but again, you would have to Google what the English laws of succession are, because again, I don't know what they are.
That's okay. I don't think I could really be that bothered.
Yeah, most people aren't. I'm not that bothered either.
So, King, Queen, either way, it's the British national anthem.
Yep.
We here in the States know it as My Country 'Tis of Thee.
Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing.
This recorded version was played at the end of every Queen concert from 1974 to 1986. Kind of like their version of Elvis Has Left the Building. Mm-hmm. When you heard it, you knew the show was over and they were not going to come out for anything else because they would be taking their bows on stage while it was playing, and that was it. Great way to end the album. And I
want to know how Freddie felt about that, though, considering he is from Zanzibar and he grew up in a country where, a lot of English people were throwing him racial slurs. So I wonder if he was as patriotic as maybe Brian or John or Roger.
Well, you could also look at it as God Save the Band.
Oh, that's true. That's right. That's one part that they got right in the Bohemian Rhapsody film. And when they're coming up with the name, and Freddie's girlfriend looks at him and goes, as in her Majesty, and Freddie goes, as in Her Royal Highness. It's like, oh, we know who that's referring to.
Yep.
Yeah.
There was something else about God Save the Queen I wanted to say. I know there was something, I just kind of looked at it quickly, where somehow Brian ended up on top of Buckingham Palace, I think in 2017.
Oh, yeah, and he played it.
Played it on his guitar, his red... something guitar that he and his dad built.
Cool.
And he's always had it. And there was something else about God Save the Queen. Oh, there was an episode of Monty Python, Flying Circus, where they were all informed that the Queen might be watching this particular episode and that the BBC had some sort of way of knowing when she was tuning in. So every time that she tuned in, the skit would stop and they would play God Save the Queen and everyone would have to stand up.
Oh my God. Was that real or was that just a bit where they were like...
That was just a bit that ran through the whole episode, and it was hilarious.
That's great.
Because the very last skit that they did was really tasteless, but it was hilarious. It was about this guy who was going to an undertaker and he wanted to get his mother buried, and he was kind of looking for a cheap way. And they were like, well, we could either bury her, burn her, or dump her. Dump her? Yeah, just dump her in the Thames. Oh, did you like her? Yes, okay, well, then we won't dump her. We can either, bury her or burn her. Well, what happens? Well, if we bury her, she gets eaten up by lots of weevils and nasty maggots. Well, if we
burn her?
If we burn her, she goes up in flames, crackle, 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 which is a bit of a shock if she's not dead. And so he's like, well, I don't know. And then well, can we have a look at her? Yeah, oh, I think maybe we'll just eat her. Eat her? Well, yeah, not raw, cooked. Well, what do you say? Well, I do feel a little bit peckish. And then the audience finds it so revolting that they start rioting. And during the riot, God Save the Queen starts playing.
So everyone has to stop. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And then there's also the Sex Pistols version, God Save the Queen, which is totally different from this God Save the Queen, because that was God Save the Queen, She Ain't a Human Being, which sort of rhymes.
Is that on Nevermind the Bollocks, Here's the Sex Pistols?
Their only album, yeah.
Their only one? Oh, we'll get into that when we cover the Sex Pistols.
Which I don't have that album, so I guess I'll have to buy it someday. But anyway, I thought it was a great way to end the album because I think, yeah, you've got the gong at the end closing out Bohemian Rhapsody.
That would have been
But I kind of
perfect.
think God Save the Queen is kind of like a coda.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like to the band, like, yeah, we're here. Yep, stand up and salute if you want, but damn it,
Salute us.
we rule.
Okay. Overall, A Night at the Opera is an album where if you're only interested in listening to the famous tracks, you're doing yourself a disservice. The songs that not everyone knows haven't been forgotten because they were bad, but because the songs that became so big merely overshadowed the others without really meaning to. I think this is my favorite Queen album, and to all the fans who would say I'm basic for that, I don't care. Freddie would want us to enjoy his music at the end of the day, so shut up. As for everyone else, go put this on and listen to it in one go for the full experience. After that, then you can cherry pick.
Well, yeah, if you're a Queen fan, then odds are pretty good that you already have this
Yeah.
album. And if not, at least you know Bohemian Rhapsody. And to me, there are kind of two types of Queen fans.
Mm-hmm.
There are Queen fans who have like Queen's greatest hits and the best ofs, volume one, volume two, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. And then you've got the Queen fans like me who are like, yeah, 39, let's pick that apart. So it's kind of like you've got like
But
the
you,
surface fans who know every single Freddie song and then are shocked to find out Brian and Roger, they sang on the songs too. They had their own songs.
which was me for a while, to be fair, until we started doing the show.
Oh, yeah. I mean, granted, all the songs that Freddie sang on, they became hits, but Roger and Brian, they put out some great stuff.
Now, here's a question I have. Does this make you want to listen to their last album ever, the one that you don't own?
Oh, there's a lot of them that I don't own.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I would continue because I was reading reviews of like the stuff that I never heard, and I think, yeah, I think I'm going to track this stuff down or just call it up on Hoopla and listen to it because the thing was, I have every album up to The Game, which I thought I absolutely need this stuff. And then the thing was, I did buy Hot Space and thought, oh, something wrong here, which they kind of not exactly pin on John, but it was kind of like, okay, let's give John a turn. What is he like? And he was like really into like dance music and rap and funk, and
Oh,
it
that's
just
not
didn't
them.
work with them. And then the one that came after that was The Works, which I thought was okay. That was Radio Gaga was the hit off that, which
That's a good
Roger
song.
wrote,
Yep.
but Freddie sang.
Oh.
Because I think Roger realized I don't think I can pull this off.
Mm-hmm.
But that was an okay album. And then kind of after that, it was kind of like I felt like I was getting
Fatigue?
less of a return on the investments.
Oh, okay.
But I think, now that everything's available out there, I will go back and listen to like The Miracle, Made in Heaven,
Made in Heaven's good.
Innuendo,
I love I'm Going Slightly Mad.
all
That's
that stuff.
fun.
Yeah, they say that's a pretty good album. So I will do some deep diving into that stuff. The only other thing that I listened to was the live Wembley album
Oh,
from
yeah.
'86.
That's
And I
fine.
thought, this is okay. Everyone said, oh, this is their greatest concert ever. And I thought, okay, I have to listen to this. And I thought, it's not bad, but I think the fact that you've got four guys and in some cases three guys trying to reproduce these songs that just sound really, really big in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to give him credit for trying to do that.
Maybe you had to be there.
I think so.
All right, as always, thank you for listening to the latest installment of My Dad Listens to This. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. Remember, the more you interact with the video, the greater chance we have of appearing on the YouTube homepage. If you follow me on social media, I post the episodes there. If you're friends with Dad, tell him what you want to listen to, and he'll send it right to your inbox. As always, thank you for listening to the latest installment of My Dad Listens to This. We'll be back next time with another album to nitpick and gripe about. Dad, anything you want to say before we sign off?
Does nothing really matter? Discuss.